This but it is currently 10:10 and it is Friday, January 2nd. This is just going to be me just talking about my week, I guess. I don't know. Honestly, just want to stay consistent with making videos. I want to do at least one a week, especially yeah, I don't know, just to keep myself accountable and make sure I'm doing something. But yeah. Let's talk about this week. So basically, coming into this week, it is the last week of December, and overall throughout this entire month, price action has not been very good. Volatility has just been not good. If we look on ES, because I swear Nasdaq just doesn't show volatility right. Um, like if you look at like Monday, we have decent volatility for the first 20 minutes of market open, and then it just goes down to nothing. I mean, we're playing with nothing down here. And I mean, it hasn't been horrible, but just overall bad price action for December. Um, but yeah, I guess let's just break down how we didn't take any trades this week, and why. So this weekend, or sorry, this last weekend, I was at Allison's Lake House for her birthday and like Christmas. Allison is my girlfriend. Um, and basically on Monday I was trading on my phone, and that's something for me is like I'm not super inclined to trade on that. Just because I don't know, I don't like it as much. I like to be on a laptop. But yeah, I think my bias for Monday was bullish. That ended up playing out, and then I'm not gonna worry. I'm not gonna worry about that. Yeah, we're only looking at Nasdaq today. We're not looking at at both indexes. But I don't believe that we swept out these highs on ES, and that would have been a possible continuation trade up to these highs on ES, but we never ended up doing that. We ended up just consolidating after we swept out these highs. I believe my bias was bullish for this day, and that was mainly formed off of inversing this for a value gap here, and then I believe we were in a 4 hour gap around here. That's why I didn't want to take any shorts, because we didn't have many draws to the downside for liquidity. So yeah, we ended up sweeping these out, but obviously, as you can see, we swept it out in like 7 minutes. So there was not a whole lot for us to take off of that. And then after that, we kind of just consolidated. We didn't sweep out any other lows on either index. I think ES ended up just trending down into these, but like super choppy. And I think that was like around, 10:20 when that even happened. So on Tuesday, overall, I didn't have a bias going into Tuesday. There's nothing really that was going on. We were super consolidated Asian session, super consolidated London session, and obviously we were super consolidated on in New York session. So, I mean, we were just playing around in a box here, which is kind of why I didn't have a bias. I was just kind of playing the continuation game, see what happens, see if I can take a trade off of anything possibly, and we ended up not getting anything. We had a gap here. That gap ended up getting filled in, which made us sweep out these lows and then these lows as well. I don't exactly remember what we did on ES, but overall, like I mean, this is not looking very good, and I remember doing looking at this and just being like, oh my gosh, like what are we doing? We're not forming any good price action at all. Um, and then after that, we came up, we edged these highs, and then we ended up just making a little baby retracement into this for value gap. But obviously, there's no entry that could have taken up into these highs, so we ended up just not taking any trades for the day. Yeah, and then we ended up sweeping these highs out. Don't know exactly what we did on ES, and then after that, we just pretty much went down, inverse this gap, and then just consolidated for the rest of the day. Obviously, we did move up a little bit, but that's not something that I'm going to take a trade off of. So we go to Wednesday. Wednesday was a little bit different. I didn't really have a super strong bias going into the day. That's just because there was not really any liquidity to the downside. I mean, this is practically a straight line. And this again, this is just kind of showing what December has been like. It's just been a lot of, goofy moves like that. And that's just not something that I want to necessarily take a trade off of. So, um, yeah, I believe bias going into the day was bearish. I don't exactly know why. Um, let me look actually. Let's see, Wednesday. Yeah, so we didn't really have a bias for Wednesday. Really, the only thing was this 1 minute SMT that kind of showed that we might be moving downwards. And I mean, we did a little bit, and then we just kind of tanked downwards. I think the reason why we moved downwards was just because there wasn't really anything towards the upside. There honestly wasn't much towards the downside either. There really was not much. But yeah, we ended up inversing this gap right off of market open. And then it took like forever for us to even get down to these lows. We just kind of consolidated. I believe we got there a little bit quicker on ES, but yeah, no real movement for Wednesday. It was also New Year's Eve, so not expecting a whole lot. And that's clearly what we got. We didn't get anything for the day. I mean, this looks horrible. Nothing happened. And then Thursday, New Year's Day, bank holiday, we didn't trade. And then we go to today. Today was a no trade day, and it was also the first day of January. Honestly, we got better price action today than we have this entire week. We actually moved a decent amount, so I'm super excited about that. Overall, my bias for the day was bullish. That did the draws that I wanted to get swept out did end up getting swept out, and then we did turn bearish for the day. Going into market open, we had this 4 hour SMT. ES was the leading index, and also my charts are a little goofed up. I don't know why Asian session is just nothing, but whatever, it's fine. But yeah, ES ended up sweeping out these lows, which would have completed this SMT. Actually, I think it was these lows that would have completed this SMT right away. And then after that, we basically formed an SMT from these these lows, um, from these lows to these lows, and obviously that's not something that's going to generate my entire bias just because it's a crappy SMT. I mean, this does not look good. This is not something I'm formulating my bias off of. And SMTs are good and all, but like it's not something that is gonna form a rock hard bias. So yeah, after that we had filled in this gap. So that's saying, oh, we're still gonna go bullet bearish, and then we also got a break of structure, and then we had an inverse gap right here, and that would have literally been the only confluence we could have taken a trade up to these highs on. Would have been an inverse gap after just having a break of structure and a fair value gap getting filled in. So no trade could have been taken up to here. And then after this, we did make an SMT. That would have been pretty much the only thing that we could have formulated our bias off of. If we would have taken the leading the leading index towards the downside, which already didn't really want to target these lows. I mean, these are just like lows that we made right off the market open, so not insane draws on liquidity. So already there wasn't much I wanted to target. I mean, yes, we could have targeted these lows, but we already had swept them out on ES, which I mean, honestly, sometimes is more reason for us to sweep them out on Nasdaq. But yeah, overall, I wasn't super inclined to do that. I did kind of fail to see that we were consolidating, and then this was our manipulation leg, and then this is our extension. So that ultimately was the daily market structure coming into what the heck? Coming into market open. My market structure was based off of this consolidation and then this manipulation and then this being the extension, which you could also say that was just the lower time frame market structure. And I mean, it ended up playing out, so I'm not opposed to saying that was just kind of the internal market structure. But after this SMT, we made a inverse gap, and then we finally got a break of structure, which is where I would have entered. I would have wanted, an inverse gap and then a break of structure, and that's mainly just because we didn't look very good here. This isn't showing us exactly where we want to go. We're pretty consolidated, and then we get a retracement, not into any gaps or anything, and then we get, yeah, an inverse gap, and then here's our break of structure. But our break of structure is also in the middle of this hourly gap, and so is this respecting this gap. You know what I mean? So we respected a gap, and then we went up, made an SMT, and then we had inverse the gap, and then a break of structure, but we still had an inverse this gap. So already there, my bias was just not super strong, and I didn't want to take this trade necessarily. But yeah, after that, we kind of just made only down candles to the downside, and then yeah, I mean, we pretty much just on both indexes went down. We made a little retracement here. Honestly, it was a pretty big retracement. Let's see. Do we have? So it looks like we maybe like a 10-minute candle getting filled in, but like if we look at our 5 minute, we didn't really form or fill in any gap. I mean, there wasn't really much gap that we could have filled in. So yeah, I don't know. Overall today and this entire week, completely content with not taking any trades. And yeah, I mean, this is just me coming on here and blabbering. Nobody's even gonna watch this to the end. But if you do, I mean, awesome. So yeah, I'd say I'm very content with the week. I'm excited to see what next week brings. We have a lot more news this week. We really didn't have much news, and with New Year's, it was just also not giving us a super strong volatility. So yeah, but I'm excited the charts look like this today, and I'm excited to see what the next week brings. But yeah, no trades today. Just wasn't enough confluence to find any entry at all. So yeah, we'll see what next week brings.